This story begins with the meeting of the two main characters. The Archduke does not understand why Charlotte came to him. Charlotte wants him to use her so he can avoid marriage. This is how the main character met Letitia for the first time. His name is Kalyan Adel Heverus, Archduke of the North. The source of all this was the Empress Dowager of Istar, Briam Heverus. She entered the palace by marrying Adel's father after the death of his wife. And in order to put her son on the throne, she tried to undermine the position of Adel and his brother. While he and his brother were out for a walk, he died in an accident. Without a single coin of support, Adel was forced to head north. Adel lost everyone who was dear to him, leaving him with endless silence. Even as time passed, the mother remained close by, unnoticed. The silence was so oppressive that it seemed to suffocate. Something happened at the banquet in honor of the victory in the Kashgar War. Adele kept wondering why the Empress was preventing him from entering the palace. She is going to announce his marriage without his consent, but she only wanted to reward him with an alliance with a beautiful lady. Adele guesses that she simply wants to keep an eye on him through marriage. He cancels the marriage proposal, and his mother said that he cannot do as he pleases. Suddenly, the hero announces that he has a woman whom he plans to marry. Adele also says that she never considers her as her mother. In fact, he doesn't have a bride, but he had no choice. Lies of this kind will be exposed sooner or later. But Adele already knows that no one will want to marry the damned prince. It was at that moment that Letitia appeared before him. In exchange, Charlotte asked for a place to stay. Adele agrees and asks her not to create any problems. If she becomes even the slightest burden, the contract will be nullified. Their relationship was nothing more than just a contract. Since Adele spent most of his time away from home, they rarely saw each other. But when he returned, they were sitting at the table together. Sometimes they even went out for a walk in the garden. It was all just a simple, monotonous repetition of routine. One day, it occurred to Adele that he liked this routine, so he realized that he didn't want Letitia to leave. But one day, Charlotte decided it was time for her to go. She stated that it turned out that she was sick with something. Adele asked her why she didn't tell him earlier. Letitia didn't think it was important to say, because after the contracts expired, they would be nothing to each other again. Adele himself once said that she was too much trouble. The man asks how he can help, but Adele was ready to do everything to cure her. By imperial order, he had to go on a campaign. Promising to return, Adele asks Charlotte to wait for him. As he wanted, Letitia stayed at the estate and waited for him. But when he held the cold urn, there was no warmth left in him. His miserable life only got better thanks to Charlotte. Adele was ready to give everything to see her again. At that moment, something strange happened. When Adele opened his eyes, he saw his knights. For some reason, they were talking about the upcoming victory banquet. One of the warriors reminded him that the Empress was going to announce his wedding. Adele is sure that the banquet is long over. Suddenly, something asked him to keep it a secret that he had traveled through time. Thus, Adele realized that he had indeed returned to the past. And this time, the hero promises himself that he will not let Charlotte die. First, Adele must meet her. His warriors thought he saw something in the sky, but the Archduke said that there was nothing special. Adele realized he was back at the moment right before the victory banquet. The warriors asked him if he was really going to put up with the marriage. Adele decided that he needed to enter the palace under a different guise. Pell just happened to have some emergency potions with him. He just happens to have some painkillers with him for Charlotte. The warriors wonder who he is going to disguise himself as. Adele decided that Winston Hilton would be a perfect fit. And what happens next doesn't matter to him anymore. So they began to wait for the carriage in which Winston was riding. He tensed when they stopped abruptly. The soldiers immediately tied him up and ordered him not to move. Adele told him that he shouldn't have been his mother's lapdog. Now he needs to borrow his face for a little while. By drinking the potion, Adele transforms into Winston. He orders everyone to stay here until the carriage arrives. Pell asked why they had to wait for the Esta family's carriage. Adele replied that it was because that was their real goal. When the carriage arrived, Adele lied that the wheel was stuck. The driver is indignant, because this is the only road to the palace. Meanwhile, Adele noticed that Charlotte was in the carriage. When he came closer, he saw that Letitia was not feeling well. She said that everything was fine and he shouldn't worry. In her place, Adele would not have stopped taking sedatives. But the man guesses that Charlotte has already accepted him. This sedative leaves behind a scent. He gives Letitia the best sedatives. The girl hesitates, not sure if it is safe. But at the moment she has no choice. Adele asked her if she felt better. After this, she can get out of the carriage. Charlotte stumbled. But Adele caught her in time. She is sure that she has never seen this man before, so she doesn't understand why he's so worried. It's awkward because even her own family isn't this worried. She doesn't understand why he cares about her if she brings nothing but misfortune. More than 10 years ago, she was adopted by Countess Esta. Her outstretched hand became Letitia's only support. But something terrible happened when they were heading home after the adoption. An unexpected carriage accident cost Letitia her life, and she, as the only survivor, became a thorn in this family. Letitia doesn't know if it was inevitable. Her older brother blamed her for their mother's death. Letitia tells him it was an accident, but her words cannot bring her mother back from the other world. Her brother thinks she doesn't even deserve to eat. Letitia withdrew into herself and forgot herself, so Adele asked if everything was okay. She admitted that it was very difficult for her to ride in a carriage, but it seems that the carriage will not move. If Letitia is late, Isis will be furious. Adele said that they could continue on horseback. She was afraid that someone would see them, but Adele threw his robe over her. The hero promises her that everything will be okay. Upon arrival, the knight asks for an invitation. Seeing Winston's name, the knight let them pass. Adele asks Letitia not to remember him like that. At that moment, she suddenly felt blood coming from her nose. Adele tenses, asking her not to throw her head back. He asks her to press her nose to stop the bleeding. Letitia would like to repay him for his kindness. He became convinced that he could ask for anything he wanted. And after that, Adele regained her appearance. When Letitia asked him what he was doing there, he replied that he had his own reasons. Taking her hand, Adele invites her to become his wife. Since she came to him after the banquet, he is sure that she will not refuse him. But suddenly, Letitia says that it will be difficult, and all because she already has a fiancé. At that moment, Letitia heard a familiar voice outside the door. Someone is angry that they have to meet in secret. Patrick believes that some adopted commoner is not worthy of him. He says that he is only using Letitia, and then he will leave her. Kalian guessed that this man was Letitia's fiancé. He was about to find out, but Letitia stopped him. She said she would figure it out herself. Patrick's mistress asked him how he was going to get rid of Letitia. He reminds her that his family is a spice trader, and recently he came across a very interesting spice. It can bring a person to the brink of death without leaving a trace. Patrick promises there is nothing to worry about. Letitia showed up and said he should have been more careful. Patrick asked in a panic how long she had been there. Letitia, in a rage, pours her drink on him. After this, she asks him to break off the engagement. Patrick thinks she's gone crazy, but in fact it's the opposite. In exchange for this political marriage, he would receive their shipping business. Letizia is going to send a divorce letter, but Patrick believes that she should listen to his answer first. He asks her not to make a scene, because nothing depends on her words. He wants Letitia to pretend she didn't see anything. At that moment, Letitia realized that he didn't understand anything. Grabbing him by the scruff of the neck, she says the game is on. One day, Patrick showed her a brooch that was enchanted with recording magic. With her help, he will find his brother's weak points and become a duke. Letitia asked what would happen if she let the duke listen to the recording. Patrick asks to give him the brooch immediately, but Letitia asks him not to do anything stupid. Something unpleasant could happen if someone found out that he had brought something illegal into the palace. Patrick agrees to break up, but asks for the brooch to be returned. But Letizia promises to return her after the divorce. After all, she needs to have leverage over him too. She knew he had a mistress. When the father and brother find out about the divorce, they will not let it go so easily. When she returned, Kalian asked how everything went. In response, she asked what he meant by asking her to become his wife. Kalian needs someone to play his bride for a while, all because he must avoid an unwanted marriage. Letitia realized that he had lived a life similar to his. If she says she has become the Archduke's bride, her family won't be able to do anything about it. She shares with Kalian that she just broke off her engagement. The time has come, and Kalian asks her to follow him. At the banquet, the marriage of the Archduke with the Marquis's daughter was already announced. At that very moment, Kalian rushed to stop him. He told the presenter that it would be difficult because he had already promised to marry Letizia. Nobody expected Adele to show up at the banquet, which was dedicated to him. When Letitia saw the peach cake, she realized she couldn't eat it because of her allergy. Kalian confirms that he will indeed marry Letitia. He quietly, casually swaps their plates. The mother asked how the Archduke dared to turn an imperial order into a joke. She thinks that Kalyan is using a cheap trick now. She seems angry that the lady he chose will not become an archduchess. The woman pretended not to understand what Adele was talking about, but Kalyan said that one cannot forever maintain that she knows nothing. That's why he asked her to stop this circus. He asks her not to bother him, as he will not return to the capital again. She got furious and said that she shouldn't have brought him to the capital. She needs to leave, because she can't stay here another minute. Before Kalyan and Letitia leave, the butler wants to talk to him. He thought that his mother's attitude towards Kalyan would change, but he was wrong. Kalyan insists that he doesn't need to worry about it. He says goodbye to Kalyan, hoping to see him again, to which he replied that such a meeting would not take place again. Kalyan has wasted a lot of time. He needs to hurry to Letitia. At this point, her brother asks her why she broke up the marriage. He thought it was a joke, but the girl said it was all true. The brother is furious that all their family affairs will be ruined because of her. Kalyan asks him to let go of his bride's hand. Grabbing her brother's arm, Kalyan pulled him aside. The guy asks not to interfere, as this is their family's business. But Kalyan knows their family's situation better than anyone. He guessed that her brother didn't even know that Patrick was cheating on Letitia. The brother is literally in shock, because she didn't tell him about it. But every time he covered his ears when Letitia tried to tell the truth. Her brother asked her if she had any idea how pathetic she looked. He pushed her and Letitia flew down, and Kalyan tried to catch her. She suddenly opened her eyes and realized that she could not see anything. She thought the lights had gone out, but Kalyan said that wasn't true. This frightened Letitia, that now she could not see anything. The brother was surprised, because he only pushed her lightly. He wanted to touch her, but Letitia asked him not to touch her. He asked in a rage how she dared to hit him. Letitia asked if he knew about a spice called tetrad. She shares with her brother that Patrick wanted to use this against her. Letitia thought that her brother, on the contrary, would be happy about this news. Kalyan asks them to put aside their family quarrels because it is time for them to return. Letitia is worried that he got hurt when he fell down the stairs with her. Taking her in his arms, Kalyan asks her to take care of herself first. Letitia didn't want to do this and asked to be put in her place, but Kalyan knows that she won't be able to walk now because she can't see anything. Pell was shocked and asked what happened inside when he saw the Archduke. Kalyan told the servants that they were returning to the city mansion. Letitia goes with them, and Kalyan asks that the carriage be prepared. Mark said that if the carriage went through the forest, they would be able to leave. And Pelu Kalyan ordered to keep an eye on the family doctor at Count Esta's estate. Pell is at a loss because he won't even be able to enter the mansion. The person who sent the book wants to see Pell so he can see the doctor. Pell hopes that Kalyan will tell him what happened later. Soon Mark reported that the carriage was ready. There, Kalyan asked if Letitia could take the medicine. When she said no, he decided to help her. Having thrown the pill into his mouth, Kalyan decided to pass it on to Letitia. After that, he asked Letitia if she knew who he was. When she called him Lord Archduke, Kalyan asked her not to say that. Hugging the girl and clinging to her, he said that he was her husband. Soon Letitia was put to bed. Kalyan asked the doctor if she was okay. But the doctor doesn't understand at all what's going on here. A few days ago, he received a parcel from an unknown sender. Inside was a medical book explaining how to cure the lady's illness. The doctor thought that the person who sent the book was the Archduke. He told Kalyan that there were no serious wounds other than a slight abrasion. She may have lost consciousness due to her illness. The doctor asked if it was true that he had sent a book about Letitia's illness. That's right, because Kalyan thought that the doctor would figure out how to treat her. But the doctor does not have the knowledge to understand the cause of the disease. Kalyan guesses that he is treating Letitia after her carriage accident. She seriously injured her head, and the doctor treated her with magic stones. Treatment with these stones is what caused the current problem. The magic of the stones met with the blood clot and caused a blockage. With this doctor's experience, even this will be enough to find treatment faster. At that time, the doctor only wanted to save Letitia, and it was the right decision. Be that as it may, part of the responsibility lies with him. Kalyan gives him time to find a cure. The next day, Letitia finally woke up. She is afraid that the Archduke will be angry that she was unconscious for so long. She quickly realized that this wasn't even her room. Pell isn't sure whether he should go in or wait. He is worried that Letitia is sleeping for so long, but by this time, she had already gone outside. They get acquainted, and he asks to be called simply Pell. He explained that this was the Archduke's city mansion. Letitia found Kalyan's notebook under the bed. Pell asks to give it to him so that he can pass it on to the Archduke. But Letitia decided that she would give it to her herself. She still has something to say, so she has to meet him. Pell assumed that Kalyan was currently on the training field. When they arrived, Kalyan asked if everything was okay, and Letitia asked in horror what was wrong with his hand. She thought that Kalyan suffered because of her. Kalyan says that he won't be able to walk in this condition, so he asks Letitia to hold his hand as they walk. Letitia asked again if everything was okay with Kalyan's hand. He lied that she was in so much pain that it felt like he was dying. The heroine decided to help him unbutton his shirt, without any intent, because he suffered because of her. Letitia guessed that he knew she couldn't see anything. In the forest, he also helped her, although she was a stranger to him. And now she asked why Kalyan asked her to play the role of his bride. He replied that her gaze was the same as his, so he thought that she might be in a similar situation. And since things turned out this way, Letitia can use it too. Kalyan says he's not that useless. He can offer her a refuge instead of the Count's estate. He also said that she didn't have to help him any further. But Letitia hadn't planned to go that far anyway. Before leaving, Kalyan asks you to think about this carefully. If she becomes his wife, she will be able to escape from this place. The North is also good for living in its own way. Several days have passed since this conversation. Shatitsia realized that Kalyan meant a sham marriage. Letitia once went through the process of creating a marriage. But if it's with the Archduke, things shouldn't be so bad. Suddenly, a maid flies into her room, saying that everything is bad with them. She reported that His Serene Highness the Archduke was here. Letitia should dress properly to meet him. But Letitia told Alan that there was no need. It's okay, she can come out and greet him. Kalyan noted that his visit was unexpected. Embarrassed, Letitia asked him to go through. The man asked if she had considered a sham marriage. Letitia said that since she was sick, she would not live long. Maybe Kalyan would agree to be with her for a while. Letitia decided to sign an official contract, which will be terminated after a year. Kalyan decided that he would now play along with her move. Then he asked if that was really all she needed. Kalyan promised that he would not tell anyone about her illness. Letitia thinks that he might ask her for something too. The only thing he asked was that she call him by his name. Kalyan made it a condition that if she didn't do this, he wouldn't sign the contract. Letitia finally tried to call him by his name, even though it was awkward. Now that they have signed the contract, they can now head north. Letitia packed quite a few things, but that's all she needed. Kalyan noted that this was quite modest. The girl wanted to carry the suitcase herself, but Kalyan did not give it to her. He asked her to look back and see Alan crying. She cries because Letitia didn't warn her about her departure. But Letitia is confident that Alan will work in a better place than this. At that moment, the heroine notices Philip. Kalyan seemed to say that he would also go with them. This makes sense because Philip is Letitia's doctor. Over time, Kalyan will say that she is taking Philip as her dowry. Letitia mentions the carriage, and Kalyan tells her not to worry. The Emperor sent the carriage as a wedding gift. He holds a first-class movement scroll in his hands. Pell asks them to go ahead, promising to catch up soon. Letitia never felt like this house was hers. Before entering the teleport, Kalyan asks for a hand. Calling Letitia his wife, he announces that they are going home. Letitia was surprised, and Adele said that this would be their home. All this time, Letitia's older brother was watching them. He can't believe that the Archduke would take someone like her under his wing. But now that she's gone, he feels relieved. Mother asks His Majesty how he could do this. She heard that Kalyan was given a scroll of movement. Although she asked him 1,000 times not to give him anything, once you start giving in, Kalyan will expect more. The mother is unhappy that her eldest son did this. She spent a lot of effort to tarnish his reputation. Suddenly, she asked how many wells there were in the empire. There is nothing more powerful in spreading fear than water. She definitely heard that poisonous spices had entered the Godwin's house. In the end, she decided that she would deal with it herself. As always, she says that their mother will take care of everything. Kalyan announces that they have arrived, and Letitia opens her eyes. After looking around, she said that she really liked it here, and Kalyan was afraid that she would say that it was very gloomy here. In fact, she had never seen so much snow before. As they approached the castle, the knights noticed the Archduke. They were surprised when they saw him carrying someone in his arms. Letitia is embarrassed because everyone is looking at them. But if she goes on foot, she will get frostbite. Even though she assures him that he won't freeze, Kalyan doesn't listen to her. He is sure that everyone will think that she is a wife who is loved immensely. Letitia was embarrassed and asked him not to joke like that. She thought he could use the scroll to travel to the castle. But within the castle walls, the magic is limited. And all this because of the clock tower. Kalyan asked her if she had heard of Shuten's tower. The thing is that this tower was built by the magicians of Shuten. The Shuten mages went out of control, and all their magical power was sucked into this tower. Everything connected to Shuten disappeared, leaving only the tower. Because of the tower's magic, scrolls cannot be used. Kalyan is glad that Letitia understands magic. After that, he asked her if she liked to read. When he was about to visit the library, he asked her if she needed any books. The room that Letitia got turned out to be too good. Even if she loses her sight, she will be able to hold on to the railing. She feels like the servants don't like her, but she's used to it. She told the maid that she didn't need anything else and that she could go. When she left, Letitia noticed a door leading to the bathroom. She didn't waste any time and decided to accept it immediately. She noticed another door that wouldn't open, but it doesn't matter anymore what's behind it. After some time, Letitia heard voices. She realized that she had dozed off for a while. It seems that door leads to the Archduke's room. She needed to leave quickly before Kalyan came in, but it was already too late. And when the door opened, Kalyan froze in place. The maid Mia was asked why she was here and not with her mistress. She made tea for the lady, but for some reason, she is very nervous. The maid writes that she feels she has offended Letitia. She thinks Letitia will be disappointed in the north. Another maid appeared and asked what they were whispering about. She thought it was all because of the butler, which is why he was indignant. He doesn't like that Masha speaks so loudly because they can be heard. Mia writes that the two of them haven't changed over the years. Masha admits that she is already tired of him and does not understand why he came here with her. But the butler made an excuse by saying that he had gone to fetch his lordship. Masha is his lordship's nanny, so she had to go. Mia felt like Letitia felt uncomfortable around her. Masha recalls that the layout of rooms in the north is different. That's why, when Kalyan went into the bathroom, Letitia assumed he had some business to do. His companion asks what happened. Suddenly, Kalyan closes the door from the other side and asks him to leave. He didn't know that there was already someone in the bathroom. This bathroom is next to Letitia's room, and Kalyan somehow ended up here. He explained that the husband and wife's rooms were connected through the bathroom. Kalyan also noted that the water had already cooled down. His gaze accidentally fell on Letitia's chest, but he immediately turned away. Kalyan hands her a robe for her to put on. He needs to turn away so she can put it on. After she changed her clothes, she returned to her room. Kalyan still thinks about what he saw, thinking himself a wild animal. Letitia wonders if his hand is okay. When she heard a knock on the door, she went to open it. It seems that Kalyan has already had a swim too. Letitia liked her room, it was nice. Kalyan asks not to worry about the bathroom, saying that he will use another one. He asks why she covers it, because her hair is beautiful. Letitia says that if you don't dry your hair, you can catch a cold. But Kalyan said that his arm hurt and asked the girl for help. Eventually they sat down, and Letitia began to dry his hair. During this, she says that she has one more request. Letitia wants to learn to read Braille. As she recovers, her vision will fade, so she decides to study in advance. Soon, Kalyan asked Mark to look for someone who could help Letitia learn Braille. He knows that the bookstore has a librarian who knows Braille well. Kalyan remembers that he is a man, and Mark said that he is already an old man. Suddenly, Kalyan canceled all plans because he had already found a teacher. Mark was genuinely surprised when Kalyan said it was him, and Mark didn't hear it right. Kalyan himself is going to teach Letitia. The next day, Mark asks Letitia if she slept well. He said that he was walking her to Kalyan's office. Letitia asked if he had seen her teacher, and Mark lied that he had. Mark assures her that the teacher will not be strict with Letitia. Even though she was told that he is not strict, she is still worried. Already at the rise, Kalyan asked her why she was so nervous. Kalyan said that no one was going to eat it. First, he asks her to sit down at the table. After drinking a glass of water, Letitia asked where the teacher was. When Kalyan said he was here, Letitia didn't understand him. But when I realized it, I became embarrassed. She feels awkward that Kalyan is a busy man and will now waste his time on her. In the north, Kalyan is the only one who knows Braille. Every day at this time, they will learn one word. It will not be possible to increase the quantity due to Kalian's busy schedule. Letitia thought she saw something like smoke. She asked to give her a book so that she could study hard herself. But this book is too valuable to Kalian. He can't just give it away. Kalian promises to increase the number of hours if she helps him dry his hair. After this, Letitia gives Patrick's brooch to Kalian. The man asked in surprise why she was doing this. She said that there was something written there that might be useful to him. Patrick has a brother, Peter, who could become the heir. Peter can't take Patrick lightly because of the situation. The main thing is that it is Peter who manages the affairs of the ducal family. Listening to the recording on the brooch and making a deal with Peter against Patrick could be of great benefit to the North. Kalianu wonders how Letitia knew about this. It's because of the documents she looked through when she entered the ducal residence. Kalian is surprised that she remembered so accurately something she saw a couple of times. He didn't expect Letitia to be interested in business. Now he asked how about making a deal with the young duke. Letitia isn't sure, since she hasn't really been out in public. But it was she who noticed what Kalian did not. He too, preferring the sword to words, does not know how to bargain. Letitia confirmed this, but honestly, Kalian thinks this will be quite interesting. Letitia is afraid that she won't cope and that she will cause losses. But it doesn't matter, she can do as she pleases. All because no one here will tell her anything. Letitia is confident that she can cope if she helps Kalian. If this is her wish, then Kalian says that they will discuss it later. Now that he has received the tuition fee, they begin the lesson. He will ask Letitia to concentrate and remember the sensations well. The word learned in the first lesson is ashara. It means a new beginning. Kalian didn't have to walk Letitia to her room. She noticed the clock tower. She was confused by the fact that the clock was moving, although she remembered it being different. But she quickly forgot about it, deciding that she was just imagining it. Someone always leaves things at Letitia's door. It's been 4 days already. It's definitely not Kalian. Letitia came into Kalian's room to dry his hair. When she entered the room, Kalian was ordering Mark to reorganize the troops. Mark promises to do everything immediately. Before Mark left, Letitia asked if he had left the basket at her door. Mark says that he can find the one who left her himself, but Letitia said it was nothing, because there was nothing special there. The Archduke grabbed her hand, and she asked what had happened. Because his hair was wet, he felt a little cold. Mark can't believe this is coming from a man who fought in icy water. He said that he would call a healer immediately, but Kalian stopped him. But Kalian ordered him to leave immediately. Mark feels like the Archduke has been kicking him out too often. He heard some voices in the corridor. The servants argued about what Letitia liked best, so Mark realized that the basket was not sent by just one person. He asked about it, deciding to make sure. Letitia decided to bring Kalian a blanket. Next time, she'd better call a servant, so she doesn't have to carry it herself. She's not used to giving orders, but she'll have to get used to it. She can do this as much as she wants, because now she is the mistress here. She wonders when Kalian's arm will heal. Letitia feels like this makes him uncomfortable. The next day, Mark asked if his hand had healed. Slightly embarrassed, the Archduke said that it had not yet healed. Mark remembers them removing the bandage, but he decided he imagined it. He says there has been no news since Pell crossed the border. We'll have to go there and come back before it starts raining. Kalian told Mark that he would go with him. Mark frowned, but Kalian asked him to remove that expression. He does things that are not typical for him. Letitia thought that Kalian was heading somewhere. He apologized for the fact that today's lesson would have to be postponed. Letitia noticed that he dried his hair himself. Suddenly, the Archduke asked if Letitia would be here. When she answered, he said that wasn't what he meant. In the evening, when he returns, he would like to teach a lesson. That's what he wanted to say, when in reality, he was afraid for Letitia. But Letitia promised him that she would wait for him right here. Kalian apologized for squeezing her wrist so hard, but it didn't hurt Letitia. She waved at him, saying that they would see each other later. The girl wondered why Kalian behaved this way. She noticed that he looked incredibly worried. Lost in thought, Letitia realized that she had never been outside the castle. She wanted to go, since she had nothing to do anyway. At some point, Mia came into her room. Letitia felt like she was seeing her too much lately. Mia started dusting and got dirty, so Letitia sent her to wash up. The heroine thought that she should read a book. If you look closely, you can see that there are tons of books here. Letitia was surprised to find children's books here. They are all from the same author and appear to be fairly new. She would never have thought that Kalyan liked such cute things. Letitia decided to sit down where no one would see her anyway. Upon arrival, Mark notes that the problem is not that big. The other knights assume that they are delayed because of the troubles they have encountered. Mark asked Kalyan if they should look for shelter from the rain, but the Archduke replied that there was no need for this. He reminds them that they are taking Pell and returning to the castle. Mark noticed that the Archduke was not feeling well and asked him to find shelter, promising to handle it himself. Last time Letitia died during the rain, Kalyan thought that tomorrow might be too late. He brushes Mark off, preparing to return to the castle. He is warned that riding is too dangerous, but Kalyan won't rest until he's sure Letitia is okay. At this time, the maids and the butler were looking for Letitia throughout the palace. They don't understand where she could have gone in such a downpour. Mia remembers the lady muttering about wanting to go outside. The butler is worried that she doesn't know the way at all. They heard the door open, and the Archduke appeared on the threshold. Goran admitted that they had not seen Letitia since she left. Kalyan remembered how she told him she would wait. The last time they saw Letitia was in the office. Kalyan felt so bad that he was afraid that he was already too late. Suddenly, the man heard a familiar voice behind him. Before Letitia could say anything, Kalyan rushed to hug her. She really has a talent for driving people crazy. Letitia noticed that Kalyan's leg was bloody, but he asked if she had lied to him when she said she would wait. He was afraid that no one could find her anywhere. She apologized for reading a book in the study and dozing off. Letitia asks the butler to prepare a bath for the Archduke. Masha decides to take this responsibility upon herself. Letitia asks them to call her by her first name. After that, she went with Kalyan to the room. Masha is surprised that Letitia was not at all embarrassed when she saw them. After putting Kalyan to bed, Letitia wanted to take a towel to dry him, but the man, hugging her tightly, asks her not to leave. But if you don't wipe it off, he'll catch a cold. She really doesn't understand why he behaves this way. Kalyan decides to admit that he is afraid of rainy days. It's all because when it rained, someone died or passed away. Today, he also thought that Letitia had disappeared because of the rain. But he worries in vain, because they are bound by a contract. Kalyan asked what would happen when the contract ended. Letitia didn't answer, because they were told that the bath was ready. If you think about it, a week of the promised year has already passed. Letitia's nose started bleeding more and more often. Already in her room, she heard a knock on the door. Kalyan appeared on the threshold with a pillow in his hands. Because of his fear of rain, he decided to spend the night at Letitia's. She didn't give him permission, but he stayed anyway. It will be quite uncomfortable to sleep on the sofa. Letitia tells Kalyan to sit down for a moment. She decided to treat the wound on his leg. Even if she tells someone else to cure him now, he won't agree. Kalyan concluded that he had a very caring wife. She's still surprised that he decided to come back because of his experiences. They are not close enough to do that, but she herself saw that in the rain, he became not himself. Eventually, Letitia allowed him to come into the room on such days. But the girl asks not to get used to her. She said not to get used to what was happening between them. This is all so that he won't be sad when she's gone. She doesn't want to be another reason for Kalyan to be afraid of the rain. Letitia will try to leave on a day when it is not raining. Kalyan himself knows that she simply cannot help but leave. Death cannot be avoided, even if you run away from it. When the girl fell asleep, Kalyan put her to bed. It seems she has decided to torment him, even on days when there is no rain. Leaning closer to her, Kalyan whispered how cruel she was. The next day, Letitia was delighted with the clearing weather. But she is bothered by the noise, especially since early morning. Looking out the window, she saw people who had arrived from the capital. But everyone was in a strange state, as if something had happened. The man on the back of one of the knights looks particularly bad. On closer inspection, Letitia recognized her as Alan, the maid. She wanted to run out, but collided with the Archduke. She asked him if Alan was supposed to come too. But it turned out that Kalyan only asked for a doctor to come. Mark and Pell also returned with them. Pell said they ran out of water and used the well. He thinks there was something wrong with the water, and everyone got sick. Some people show signs of dehydration, but overall it's not that bad. Kalyan asks Pell to rest while he calls a healer. But Pell admits that there is a certain rumor going around in the capital. He didn't have time to say which one exactly, and ran out of the room. Meanwhile, Alan is worried that the lady will see her in this state. Letitia asked in shock what the maid was doing there. The doctor said that she had sneaked into the carriage because she wanted to see the lady. Alan tearfully asked if Letitia was angry. First, she asks her to focus on recovery. Alan suddenly said that she no longer had a job. But Letitia decided to talk about it later. Kellyanne allowed Alan to stay without question, and now she asks Alan to go upstairs. There is something else that the doctor must tell them. As they were leaving the capital, an epidemic suddenly began to spread there. Then everyone started saying that it was Kellyanne's fault. This outraged Letitia because it was not connected in any way. Kellyanne thinks they have different ideas in mind. Pell asked how he knew all this, but Kellyanne remembers that something similar happened in his past life. The epidemic of that time was the work of the Empress Dowager. Kellyanne was sent a letter telling him to be careful with her. This is exactly what the Emperor warned him about. In his past life, Kellyanne simply fought with his sword against everything that came his way. Letitia wonders if there are really those who believe this. People believe rumors much more easily than it seems. The doctor apologizes for interrupting, but he has something else to say. Too many things don't add up for this to be just an epidemic. This is not an epidemic, but water poisoned with toxin. Pell began to worry that he had drunk poison and was now going to die. But Philip warned that this was just his proposal. Kellyanne became curious about the basis for his assumption. Firstly, now is the season for the spread of the epidemic. The outbreaks appeared where there were wells. Kellyanne asked if their group had really drunk water from the well and been poisoned. I wonder what kind of poison was added to the water. Philip assumed that it was colorless and odorless. In that case, there must be an antidote to this poison. But the doctor admits that he doesn't know about this. Because of this, he asks the Archduke to kill him. But he asked what the point was. Most people experience only mild abdominal pain. Their only goal is to undermine Kellyanne's reputation. He told Letitia that she could go and rest too. He noted that she now looked unhealthy. Left alone, Kellyanne thought about how much this irritated him. If we leave everything as is, it will subside. But the problem is different. He felt like Letitia was worried about him. It could become an attachment that will hold her back. Letitia decided to ask Pell if Kellyanne was always like this. Pell says Kellyanne doesn't even try to live up to the rumors. He allows people to hate him for things he didn't do. He once said that it was too much trouble to pay attention to it. Pell concluded that his lordship was indifferent by nature. He was startled when Mark suddenly appeared behind him. He had to lie that he had just remembered about an urgent matter. It looks like Pell said something he didn't intend to. The reason why Kellyanne reacts this way to false rumors is because he thinks it is natural. He thinks of himself as a sinner. That's all Mark can say to Letitia. Letitia asked Philip to spare her a minute. She asked him if he was sure that there really was poison in the well. The doctor replied that the probability was very high. He created a reagent that, when in contact with poison, causes a reaction. He tried this reagent in the well, but there was no reaction. Philip made it so that it would detect most poisons. Suddenly, Letitia remembered Patrick's words about the poisonous spice. The doctor is sure that a new poison cannot appear out of nowhere. Letitia tells him that she probably knows what was mixed into the water. She thinks that this incident is connected with the Godwin family. They recently started carrying one spice. Since the information was recent, the family received the import permit without any problems. Now Philip understood why the analysis had failed. In this case, the situation may turn out to be more serious than expected. Small children have low tolerance, and their lives are on the line. The doctor asks how Letitia knows all this. She saw it in Patrick's documents one day. The main thing now is to establish who actually did this. Among the capital's nobles, symptoms were found only in Lady Appels of the Lorazin family. Letitia remembers that she was Patrick's lover. A few days ago, Patrick was accepted as a scribe in the imperial palace. This means that the Godwin family is not the only one involved in this. Kellyanne, resting in his office, was irritated by something coming to him. He had previously asked to be left alone. As soon as he was told that it was Letitia, he immediately jumped up from his seat. Only after a couple of minutes did he allow her to enter. She smelled cigarettes, and he apologized for forgetting to air the room. Besides this, he also hid the ashtray under the table. The man opened the window, hoping it would get better. Letitia didn't think he smoked. She tells Kellyanne what is happening. Patrick is one of those people who is ready to do anything just to become the heir. Letitia then asked Kellyanne if he knew anything about it. Kellyanne assumes she already has an idea. Patrick must be getting help from the imperial family. Letitia said that she decided to meet Peter. Next, we are transported back a few days to the border region. Peter tried to convey to the guards that he had a meeting with the Grand Duke. But outsiders are forbidden to enter the north without the consent of his lordship. The news about this drives Peter crazy. His assistant whispered that everyone was looking at him. Because it rained for so long, the schedule went to hell. That's why his assistant said they better leave. But Peter himself preferred to hang around with the merchants until the rain stopped. Peter already said that they don't have a travel scroll. He asked if his assistant had received letters from his father. Nero said he had received neither a message nor a letter. It's strange that an epidemic suddenly breaks out in the capital, and Patrick suddenly became a scribe at the imperial palace. The Grand Duke, who had not had contact with the outside world for a long time, suddenly wanted to meet Peter. Peter thinks that something is definitely fishy here. He ignored Nero whenever he pointed out the danger. Peter asks to report again to his lordship that he has arrived. At this moment, Mark comes up to him. He asked Peter to follow him. Letitia asks Kalian if she didn't tell him that she was going to meet the young duke. She is indignant why she is lying here like this. Kalian said that this was retribution for her lies. He knows that Letitia can't get up now. He reminded her how many lies she had told him. She assured him that everything was fine, which in the end turned out not to be the case. Letitia didn't expect to see a handkerchief in his hands. Kalian asked if this really happened every night. From now on, Letitia will be examined twice a day. In the end, the girl agreed with him. Peter is already heading to the castle, and it's time for them to go. People who drank water from the well got better, except Alan. It was especially hard for the children who suffered from poisoning. Against this background, Patrick generously distributed grain to the sick. Letitia can't just watch everything fall apart. She needs to make this deal no matter what. It is a great honor for Peter to meet his lordship. He noted that a lot of time had passed since their last meeting. When Letitia was with Patrick, her eyes were empty. Moreover, the Grand Duke does not take his eyes off her. If Patrick had seen this, he would have definitely had a fit. Peter said that Letitia had a really wonderful brooch. He thought the brooch looked too familiar, so he realized that this brooch belonged to Patrick. Letitia told Peter about the poisonous plant, and now she understood why Patrick broke off the engagement. As a representative of House Godwin, Peter will be ashamed to look people in the eye. Thanks to this, he will be able to easily eliminate Patrick. He asked what Letitia wanted in exchange for this story. At first, Kalian planned to negotiate with the young duke's trade union, but it seems that this is not enough for Letitia. Therefore, Peter will be able to discuss all the details with Letitia. First, they need to make a trade deal with the North. It just so happens that Peter has recently become interested in the North. But Peter will not be able to fulfill the request related to the rumors about the Archduke. A trader will never enter into a deal at a loss. But Letitia thinks it will do Peter good. She asks him to sell them the tetrad. They will make the main antidote out of it and sell it to him. In exchange, Peter will tell who exactly gave the antidote. After thinking for a moment, Peter agrees. Letitia asks Philip how long it will take to create an antidote. The doctor can't believe they actually managed to get it. Genetically modified plants are difficult to process. Still, he will do his best to prepare it faster. Letitia noticed that Philip was behaving rather strangely. She also noticed that Kalian had a gloomy expression on his face. He thinks she could have simply taken the tetrad to create an antidote. Kalian doesn't see the need for Peter to be here. Peter is the kind of person that Kalian doesn't like in appearance. Therefore, he asks Letitia not to get close to the Duke. But Letitia has no reason to get closer to him. For some reason, Kalian is worried, and she has a heavy heart. He thought that the girl was feeling unwell again. Kalian thought it was because of indigestion, although her hands were not cold. Letitia explained to him that it was just a trifle. By placing his hand on her forehead, she proves that she feels well. She also proves that her eyesight is also perfectly fine. At that moment, their faces were catastrophically close. Since she is fine, she is going to go to Alan. Kalian wanted to take her there, but Letitia refused. Already in front of Alan's room, she wondered what was happening to her. Letitia wanted to ask Alan how she was feeling. But suddenly, she found Masha and the butler inside. Since Letitia seemed busy, they decided to babysit. They argued in whispers that they shouldn't have come. But Letitia is sure that thanks to them, she didn't feel so lonely. In fact, she thought they didn't like her. But the butler and Masha began to prove that this was not at all the case. Their bodies were far from perfect, so they were afraid of appearing disgusting. Letitia felt better, because all this time she felt unwanted. They are genuinely surprised that she doesn't find them monstrous. But it's only thanks to them that Alan feels better. And if she allows it, they will serve her with all their hearts. Letizia refused them, because there was no need for it. She asks to be treated as a person who is here for a short time. Letitia guessed that it was they who left the basket outside her room. In fact, it was just her guess, which turned out to be correct. Masha decides to ask which she liked better between the strawberry and lemon sherbets. Letizia admitted that she prefers lemon. Masha thought she was right. They are much more energetic than she expected. And Letitia hadn't seen Mia for a long time. Suddenly, she felt someone blowing in her ear. Turning around, she ran into Peter. Letitia didn't understand what he was doing in the main building. Peter got lost and met her by chance. He asked Mia to show him the way, but she didn't say a word. Letitia asks the maid to come to her. Letizia will arrange for someone else to accompany him. Peter invites her to show him the way herself. In the end, he too is a little shy around strangers. The Duke hopes this will not be a problem for her. Along the way, Letitia remembers Kellyanne's request not to get close to Peter. If Peter had known how pleasant the north is, he would have come earlier. He recognizes the shootin' tower in the distance. Peter asked Letitia if she knew the legend associated with this watch. You can make a wish at the tower, but you need to offer a decent price. Letitia noticed that time seemed to have changed again. Peter learns that the rest of the family knows about Patrick's affair. Knowing the young lord's character, Patrick should already be dead. Once there, Letitia tells him where to go next. The walk turned out to be shorter than Peter expected. He noted that Letitia had noticeably changed since their last meeting. She thanked him, and after that, Peter left. Thus, a few more days pass. Letitia asked Alan how she was feeling. Alan is much better now, and will soon be able to return to her normal life. Obviously, this news came as a relief to Letitia. She shares with the others that Alan is showing improvement. Peter proposes to proceed with the conclusion of the contract as agreed. It will take about 5 days to distribute the antidote throughout the capital. But they have a serious shortage of tetrad to produce even a little bit. Peter doesn't believe they need more than a tetrad. He admits that this will be a little problematic. Considering how much of the substance was used in the wells, there may not be enough left over. If people start dying at this time, the situation will worsen. At this time, it is not possible to replace tetrad with another ingredient. And Peter still hasn't received any news from his father. He remembered that there was another family in the Empire who had a tetrad. Letitia thought that Godwin's family was the only one like it. The House of Esta is responsible for transporting these spices. The Duke is unlikely to share such a rare spice. They have had several setbacks with their shipping costs this year. As an exception, they were calculated with some spices, among which could be tetrad. Since this is his lordship's family, making such a request will not be difficult. But if Peter thinks so, then let him go to the Count himself and find out. But Peter's family can no longer have any rights to this product, so someone else has to go. Letitia can't believe it has to be her. Letitia's brother is indignant at how much longer they have to keep this junk. Nothing but problems, and it takes up a lot of space. For some reason, he felt his jokes itching. Letitia's brother thought someone was talking about me. His Majesty receives a letter that the money that Letizia took with her to the north is lying on the table. Isis asked his father why he always looked into Letitia's room. He is outraged that Letitia got married and did not send a single letter, and they were dragged into the epidemic scandal only because they are now connected with Kellyanne. Isis also heard that Duke Godwin had not been seen in public lately. He thinks that the Duke has contracted this disease. Letitia's father is indignant at how this is possible. It's no wonder everything is so quiet after the engagement was broken. But Isis thinks that this is not the case at all. He said that Patrick cheated on Letitia. The father is horrified and shocked by such news. The villain Patrick met with Lady Apples. Father can't believe that this insignificant idiot dared to do this to them. Isis learned of this at a victory banquet. The father screams that he has simply gone crazy. Isis should have been told earlier, because they probably don't value them at all. Isis tried to talk to them, but he was not allowed into the mansion. Letitia didn't say anything. She was too soft. Father wants to visit Duke Godwin, even if Isis was not allowed. But the man asks Isis not to compare herself to him. He has a good reason to see the Duke. These are goods from the House of Godwin and receipts for payment. If any difficulties arise, he will threaten to throw it all into the sea. Peter thinks it is logical for Letitia to meet with the Count. But Kellyanne isn't sure that everyone will agree to this deal so easily. But Peter believes that a father will not refuse his own daughter. If they buy the title only from Peter, they won't have enough. Kalian asked Philip how much antidote they could make now. It's probably enough for the knights and Alan. But this is not enough, because there is not enough for the rest of the people in the capital. Kalian said that Letitia should not speak to the Count. He asked if she really thought the Count would grant her request. Kalian doesn't understand why they should depend on Letitia in this matter. He knows very well how she was addressed in the Count's name. Either Letitia is too kind or too stupid. Kalian is not so magnanimous and sees no point in grieving over those who rejected him. He apologized for not being a worthy husband. This still won't be enough to stop the rumors about Kalian. But this is his business and has nothing to do with Letizia. The man simply asks Letitia not to interfere. He told her that he would handle his own affairs. Letitia apologizes for crossing all boundaries. She asks him and Peter to continue their conversation, and she will leave. Kalian didn't have time to stop her, and she left. She hasn't yet had a chance to study the information she received yesterday. An awkward silence hangs in the air after she leaves. Kalian suddenly says that they didn't quarrel. It's as if he's trying to prove it to himself. Peter can barely contain his laughter, and Kalian doesn't like it. He asks him to at least remove the smirk before making excuses. Peter asked playfully how this had happened. One way or another, the issue with the antidote will be resolved, as Kalian said. Peter has no choice but to agree. Peter suggested that Kalina go after Letitia, because she must have been upset. Kalian can't even believe that she was worried about him. Her expression was full of anxiety. Peter was afraid that he had already said something wrong. He asks his lordship to speak to him calmly. Kalian sees no point in Peter staying here since the antidote has already been created. His stay here does not bring the slightest comfort to Kalian. It would be better if Peter returned to the capital. And Kalian leaves not because Peter told him to. Peter smiled and said that he understood him perfectly. Who would have thought that the cold-hearted Duke was capable of such a reaction? His lordship's castle turned out to be more curious than Peter had expected. Peter thinks that Kalian will be angry if he tells him that he wants to stay longer. Philip invites him to retire to his chambers. Peter would like to listen to Kalian's lectures, so that it would not be so boring. Philip asked him what he had muttered, but that was already important. After Letitia's death in her past life, Kalian searched for traces of her, and then fate brought him together with Peter. Then he handed him an ancient manuscript that mentioned the Shooten Tower. Ultimately, it was thanks to this book that Kalian was able to turn back time. But it remains a mystery why Peter needed this book. It is unclear whether he is hiding something important. It's worth telling Mark to pack Peter's things by the evening. Sitting in the library, Letitia thought about Kalian's words. She thinks that she should have gone somewhere after all. Suddenly, she heard a knock on the door and Kalian's voice. He wants to come in, but Letitia is not ready to see him. Even though she asked him to wait, Kalian still opened the door. Once inside, he did not find Letitia. The heroine herself does not understand why she hid. She won't be able to go out and pretend that nothing happened. He'll probably leave soon anyway and won't find her. And it seemed to her that Kalian had already left. He thought she had decided to play hide-and-seek, but apparently he was wrong. Kalian asked Letitia why she was hiding here. Letitia thought he had already left. Kalian has a meeting to attend, but they can wait. But Letitia insists that he go to the meeting. Kalian took her foot to put the shoe back on. Letitia felt embarrassed, because it must be dirty there. Although the Archduke does not understand why his wife's foot should be dirty. After that, he calmly puts the shoe on her. Kalian decided to ask if what he said earlier had upset her very much. You can tell from his face that he is very worried about this.